Fears of an economic downturn in the United States have risen. It is predicted that the U.S. economic growth rate in the second quarter of this year will record negative again after the first quarter. If the U.S. economy, which suffered a recession in the first quarter and the second quarter due to the COVID-19 shock, falls into recession again in 2 years, in the first quarter of 2020 and in the second quarter, it is the first time in 40 years since the oil shock in the early 1980s. 더블딥 is mad. 더블딥 is a compound word of double, meaning double, and deep, meaning to branch. It is also called a W-shaped economic structure because the appearance of the economic cycle resembles the letter W. A typical example of 더블딥 was the 1980-1981 recession in the United States. The U.S. economy went into recession from January to July 1980, but has grown rapidly since then. However, Federal Reserve Chairman Volcker raised the interest rates as a measure to ease inflation. As a result, the U.S. economy fell into recession again from 1981 to mid-1982. A recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth on a QoQ basis. Developed countries with mutual economics experience recessions relatively frequently. On the other hand, WDB is a situation in which an economic cycle that has been defeated does not recover to a V or a U shape, but falls into a W-shaped twice in a row. This was rare even in developed countries. The U.S. is also concerned about the WD, which historically only experienced during the Great Depression of the 1930s and the second oil shock around 1980 again this year. Not only the United States but also Korea recorded a 6% inflation rate in June. The world is suffering from inflation, recording the highest level in 24 years since the 1998 financial crisis. As a result, central banks around the world, including the U.S. Federal Reserve, are fighting to raise interest rates. This global inflation is due to the supply chain crunch caused by the COVID-19 crisis. Prices are skyrocketing due to supply chain tightness as China takes hard measures such as complete blockade of Shanghai while implementing a zero corona policy. In addition, as the US and Europe impose bans on import of Russian crude oil supply decreased and international oil prices soared accordingly. In addition, food prices soared, fueling global inflation. This inflation is due to the geographical crisis. This is not a problem that can be solved by monetary policy. In fact, the Fed also acknowledged this prior to raising rates The Fed had emphasized that monetary policy cannot cushion supply shocks and that current inflation is temporary. The Fed is rushing to raise interest rates after the CPI surged to 8.6% in May, the highest in 41 years. The Fed raised the benchmark interest rates by 0.75 percentage points in June to range from 1.5 to 1.75%. This is the largest increase since 1994. Chairman Jerome Powell also hinted at a large rate hike in July. As a result, central banks around the world are fighting to raise interest rates. This is because international capital may withdraw from the country due to the difference in interest rates with the United States. Most economists believe that the rate hike will not solve inflation and will only lead to a recession. This is because inflation is not caused by interest rates. When interest rates rise, business costs rise, firms reduce employment. When costs rise, reducing employment will slow the economy. In the end, the current global interest rate hike is highly likely to cause only a global recession.